tuned in to Cardinal Sin And, where I, Cardinal Sin, discuss important pop culture news, reviews, movies, genre fiction, comics, storytelling, and just about anything else with my fellow YouTubers. Get ready for informed conversation about what's going on, for as your humble host, I rely on my guests to provide the talking points, whether it's a panel or just me one-on-one with a friend. So get ready for Cardinal Sin And. Greetings, followers. It is I, Cardinal Sin, and today I have the great honor of having a one-on-one conversation with Adega. Adega is a medical doctor by profession. He is a published author by passion and creative skill, and he is an expert on paranormal matters, especially on matters related to Hollywood, politics, global governance, and some of the dark secrets that are seldom spoken of and more often hidden from the public. Welcome, Adega, to Cardinal Sin And.
Hey, actually, not medical. It's chiropractic. I was headed that route and learned that my talents would be far better used going into something that dealt more with when it comes to healthcare. There's several different aspects or approaches that you can go to. One is the body is stupid. It needs as much outside help as possible, or the body is brilliant and just needs very little help, or the body is brilliant, it just needs all the bad stuff taken out of the way. I'm one of the ones who thinks the body is brilliant and remove the bad stuff and let it do its thing.
Fair enough.
Medical just didn't quite fit what I liked and what made sense to me and what it's proven over time to be accurate, at least in my realm. So thank you for the intro.
So does that mean that you didn't earn an MD?
No, I got a DC.
Gotcha.
With a minor in psych.
Okay. That makes a little more sense. Let's say hello to some folks in the chat. Darius Munchausen is here. Hail. Gap Stargate is here. Hail. Antiderivative Jill is here.
Yep.
And Herc 130 is here. Greetings.
Hello, don't know Herc. Howdy.
And Tracy Asteria is here. Greetings.
Hello.
Another paranormalist, if you will. And we will be getting more as we go through. I was curious because when I used to see you around, you would go by Adega Outlaw. Did you drop the Outlaw, and if so, why?
No, it's always just been Adega. It was a YouTube thing. When I first signed on, my name was too short for them to accept it. Because I've been on YouTube for a long time, just never really did anything. It's the same with Twitter. I was one of the first there as well, and my name was too short. So at the end of Adega, there's an underscore on Twitter. So whenever it doesn't accept just Adega, then I throw in something else. Like, if you want to find me on Stream or on Steam, it's AADEGA, or, just odd things to try and make it fit.
Gotcha. If you could tell us a little bit about your background growing up, what led you to becoming a chiropractor, and what fandoms and pop culture franchises meant the most to you in your life?
Grew up in Southern California. Middle class, sometimes lower, sometimes mid-middle class, depending on how much work my dad had. The tractor mechanic. And at times, California was booming. They were making new homes and everything, so he had a lot of work. Other times he didn't. It was Huntington Beach, which I had friends that were quite wealthy and friends that were quite poor. because it was right in the middle. We got to know everybody. Uh, did everything there. Spent days on the beach during the summer, almost every day. Sometimes during the winter too, we'd ditch either golf or go to the
Were you
beach.
a surfer or anything?
Kinda, yeah. Um, Not as much as the rest of my family, but uh, I just like to do it all. Rock climbing, uh, hanging out in the desert, spelunking down in old abandoned mines. A little bit of everything, yeah. Did thousands of miles in a canoe.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, all the time. Colorado River, just miles and miles, and some of the rivers in California. Uh, it was fun. Uh, Worked out every day, not to build, but to be toned. I kind of like the gymnast frame more than anything else.
Right.
Um, but yeah, that was pretty much it. When I needed a car, I was 16. My dad pointed to a broken down vehicle and said, "If you can fix it, you can have it." And I did. So,
Sounds like a guy after my own heart.
but that's how it was. Early on, my parents were the type that said you can do anything if you put your mind to it. So I was 6, I think, and I asked my mom, "What's the hardest job you can think of?" And she says, "Brain surgeon." I said, "Okay, I want to do that because I like the challenge." And then when I was 11, I broke my low back playing football
Mm.
and went different directions and found that the chiropractor actually did far better than everything else. So that's what I said to myself, you know what? Maybe there's something to that. And one thing led to another. That's where I ended up as being a chiropractor instead of a medical doctor. Um, which, for those of you who don't know, chiropractors have a vastly superior education when it comes to anatomy, physiology, neurology, and normal function of the human body. Where the medical doctors have the superiority is pharmacology and pathology to some degree.
And I
Uh,
guess if they're a specialist, whatever that field is.
in chiropractic, you don't really get specialists. You can have sub
Oh, no, no. I
degrees.
meant MDs.
Oh, um, I guess they can specialize in certain things, like where they get into neurology and things. But I have a son who's special needs, and I've his was a brain issue, and I was able to. Uh, you want me to talk about myself? I could outread them on the MRIs, the PET
Hmm.
scans. I was talking with over in Michigan with the head of neurology at Mott Center, which is a child uh, neurological center, and I talked over his head. They were asking me what to do. And that's not just me. It's the average good chiropractor can do the same thing. It just because our education is superior in those areas. If someone was to break their spine and had neurological issues from some type of fracture, you wouldn't want to go to um, a chiropractor depending on the severity because you would need the emergency care taken care of. That thing needed to be stabilized. If they're bleeding
Sure.
to death, they have a heart attack, those type of things. We chiropractors not the ones you go to, obviously. Everyone has their own field. And if they play in their own field and respect everybody else's field, everything would work brilliantly, but egos get in the way of every profession.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm a chronic pain patient because of my back. I started out with discogenic pain. I had two discs in
Right.
between the vertebra that wouldn't compress anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, uh, when the 80 milligrams of methadone a day that my pain doctor was uh, giving me stopped working, I told him that I wanted to get off of it. And over a year, we just every month took 5 milligrams off, and I just walked off of it. But now I've got a different situation. It's neurological. It's not musculoskeletal. So I'm on, a fistful of pills, including opiates and muscle relaxants, and they don't really know what to do.
Mm. Well, maybe we'll talk sometime. See if I have anything that could help.
Okay. Um, and so, tell us about how you became a fan of the pop culture that we talk about so much, and what franchises meant the most to you when you were growing up.
I think the biggest thing, and this is weird, when I was little, started in the encyclopedia. I actually read it when I was real young. Not the whole thing, but most of it. We had the big World Book encyclopedias. There's like 18 volumes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I like going to the one where it talked about the solar system because I started seeing the different planets, people's imagination, how they looked, and they would draw them out, and they were all in there. And so things like Lost in Space, Star Trek, Star Wars really intrigued me. I sat and watched Star Trek with my parents. My mom was a Trekkie and my dad was a Trekkie, so we watched those. Um, Twilight Zone, all those little things, you know, that kind of set you off. I, unlike most people, I wasn't, you know, that are in the fandom. I didn't gravitate to one specifically. As long as it was well done and they had explosions as a kid, then I was pretty good with it. So later on, um, I avoided books for the most part until I got into high school and saw my dad reading whenever he wasn't working and or doing something in the back. He was always doing something. Um, I caught on to reading some of the sci-fi stuff, and I can't even recall what it was that I read back then. But you know, it was more of an expansive fan of the genre as in general, not in specific. Because I am one who loves to listen to other people's ideas, to see bits and pieces of other people's imagination. That's why I don't care if people are good writers or bad writers. If they got a story to tell, it should get out.
That's an interesting perspective. Uh, you and I have pretty similar backgrounds. My my mom, when I would ask her a question, would tell me, "Go look it up," because we had the World Book Encyclopedia
Right.
and the Encyclopedia Britannica, and I just got lost on the way to whatever it was I was looking for, and I
Yep.
would read
Yep.
everything.
I know that
Um,
feeling.
and and when I asked my dad questions, because he was a scientist, he would just tell me the answer most of the time. Um, what brought you to YouTube? In your channels and the shows you do with Loki, what are the topics, secrets, and knowledge that you share, and why is this knowledge important in current times?
What brought me to YouTube years ago? Uh, I had a channel, but I didn't do anything with it because I wanted to watch stuff on YouTube. And then I was playing Knights of the Old Republic, the online version, and I could do the space missions. You know, they did solo space missions without any issue. And the clan I was with, most of the people always complained about them. They said, "Well, just make a video and show us." So I made a couple of videos, and then I did all of them. And then, hey Sherry, I just left them there, let it sit for a while. Every once in a while, I threw something up and would delete it. You know, I'd read something from, Poe or. I got some really old books of ancient lectures and things that I would just put up there for a holiday or something, then pull them down. And eventually, Loki had an interesting name. I ended up on a show for like the second or third episode, just listening. I'd make a comment or here and there, and then so finally he said, "You know what? I need to get to know this guy." And so we became friends after that, and I have an interesting background where I don't want to get too much into it, but uh, there's a lot of really deep, dark, hidden secrets, bad things out in the world that when I was around age 14 started to learn about. Um, like I said, I don't want to get into details, but I know for a fact that there's some real funky stuff at an early age that was going on. And we were talking about some of these things. And so we decided to do a history channel about some things. And Halloween came around and we changed it up. And I think I did something on cryptids. I can't remember. And after that, people started throwing questions. Well, what do you know about this or that? And then I started bringing other things. So it went, one thing led to another to where I felt that it was important because we see things in Hollywood or we see things in politics and we think these people are just stupid. Why would they go and destroy things like this? When I shouldn't say every case, but in many cases, it isn't done because they're stupid. It is done because they have ulterior motives. They're trying to present a message that is contrary to normal decency, trying to change society into something that it shouldn't be. And you know about MK Ultra, how they can send out images, send out repeated messages over and over again, and eventually people become numb to it. And in some cases, that's exactly what's going on. So I decided, you know what, in some of these cases, I'm just going to point it out as much as YouTube would let me get away with it.
Right. We are putting some links in the chat and
Okay. Well, hello,
reminding
everybody in
people
chat. If I missed anybody, hello.
just reminding folks that it doesn't cost anything to subscribe, so you can subscribe to Adega here. And Mr. MH is here and says, just dropping in to say hail.
Hail.
Can't stay, but hope everything is well. And
Dan, I've got backups on BitChute and Odyssey and Rumble and all those places, mostly to reserve the Adega thing, but I think eventually YouTube is going to die. So we'll all be moving to one or another.
Really?
Probably. Yeah.
Can you elucidate on that?
Well, you can't maintain the model that they have where they're being so exclusive, that exclusionary to everyone. It's going to end up being more like cable television. Mm-hmm. And this free posting of video, or where the amateur can make a small amount of change posting things, is going away. You saw the recent thing probably on Twitter where they said, you know, this video is popular, so we're going to throttle it for the time being until people get to know you. Well, how are they going to get to know you if you keep throttling their videos?
I try and stay off Twitter as much as possible.
Well, that's probably wise, but I have seen where that's one of the new things for YouTube, and I don't post so much on those other ones, so don't worry about it. Thank you, Jill. BitChute I do. Everything's duplicated on BitChute. But I think the more they keep alienating people, and you know, like with your channel and the work that you put in, if there was a free open space, because I don't care about numbers on mine, but if there was a free open space here on YouTube, you would be 8,000, 10,000 by now, easy. But you're an independent free thinker who doesn't follow a narrative that is approved by big media or pays their big bills. So there's no point in publicizing you or allowing your content to become more visible when they're going to put their efforts into making money elsewhere, where they're going to make more money. So you really don't stand much of a chance. And since you don't stand much of a chance with their ideas, they're just going to squash you. And with that type of effort, it will kill itself. They'll have to change otherwise, because you can see the alt tech is already taking off. Rumble is doing very well, and one of these days I think I'm going to actually learn how to use it and start using it like I do BitChute. So we'll see, but I'm pretty sure that's exactly what's going to happen.
Interesting. I wanted to talk a little bit about your fiction. When did you start writing fiction, and how did you get into writing?
Um, Actually, doing what I do now started maybe 6 years ago, maybe a little bit more than that. I had written a few little things here and there. You get an A in school for English and stuff. I didn't think anything of it. But I wrote Evolution, and yeah, I kind of kept it to myself. I gave it to a buddy and my brother, and they said some really nice things about it, nicer than I still think I deserve. And they said, you got to get it out there. So I worked and then got it independently published, and it did really well. Amazon, which is a rigged system to begin with, even had it down in the top for sci-fi, not overall, but for sci-fi, I broke 100 in their top 100.
Wow.
Overall, it doesn't work that way, and plus their numbers are weird. I got under 50,000 overall, but it did all right. The problem is my contract with the publisher. I got 30%, and Amazon took 80%. And so after Amazon pulling and the publishing company pulling, I didn't get very much at all, which, I wasn't in it for the money. I just thought, hey, you know what, hey, old brother, Mexican Iron Man, good to see you. So that's just where it left off, and the response was so good, I figured, the rest of the story's in my head, I might as well start writing it out. And so I did. And I have a friend in England. You've probably heard his stuff. I talk about him all the time, Co.ag. He was a fan too, but he kept writing music about things. And one time he did it was kind of a spooky tune, and it got the juices flowing. And so I took my mind out of the realm of sci-fi for a while and went to dark high fantasy. And that's where the Blood Witch came from. After writing that, just as a lark to see what would happen, I sent it off to a publishing company to see what they thought. Well, it got intercepted by somebody else as well, not of my doing. So at the time, I had a couple publishing companies that were fighting over it. They both wanted me to sign contracts with them. I went with a new startup company because I liked their model. They were planning on breaking the back of the other models. I figured in the long run they would work, and then COVID hit. Plus, they had some other tragedies where lost equipment, moving. There were some problems with their editors, a few different things. Stuff completely out of their control. They're great people, don't get me wrong, but it didn't hold up. So here I sit, and I haven't really pushed to find another publisher again. I probably could go back to that one that wanted it besides the other one, but I just haven't really done too much of it. I'm just putting spit and polish on it because with the Blood Witch, it's one of those, with the fantasy book, you see things like Lord of the Rings, the really, really good ones, they'll have maps in them. They have various different things. So I have one of my patients, she's actually an artist, and she does my artwork when I need it. There's not a lot out there, but there's a book cover for the Blood Witch. She's doing the maps. Somebody else is working on some other artwork for it. There's a pronunciation guide. There's a topical guide. All the things that you don't see in the modern books, but this is going to be put in because I'd rather have it to be really, really polished, just look good.
We have a piece of art here.
That's the Blood Witch. That's the one she made.
And
that was going to be the cover of the book before the company folded.
Uh-huh.
So it was lined up. It was ready to roll.
Wow. They just pulled the rug out from under you, huh?
The company's gone.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
No, they wanted it out. They're good. Like I said, they're good people. They're honest, but yeah. And when I write things, I try and do it as unique as possible. I don't do another telling or fan fiction or playing in somebody else's sandbox.
Right.
So when people expect one thing, it's not necessarily going to be that way, because she's not really a witch. The blood is heavily involved. And they just call him Blood Witch because of the type of curse that she's under, or the family's under.
And I understand that your current book, I may murder this title, so I apologize in advance.
Algonzo?
Algonzo, yeah. The Algonzo Witches.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that book?
That's in the same universe. It's set 800 years before this one. I have in my mind a total of 5 books for that universe. That one is basically the start of the family, how it all came about. That universe, magic comes every 200 years. A mage can be born. They have to be born at the exact time that this light from a pulsar hits the planet. Like I said, it's medieval. It's dark. There's blood. It's horror. People aren't nice. Think of it like similar to like a Witcher type morality type thing, where people die, feudal, blood, guts, and horror. But that's the start of it. That's where the curse for the Blood Witches began. That's how they figure out what happens. So it's basically, if you think of a prequel, it's kind of a prequel, but it describes, interesting in at least for me, in the Blood Witch, the prologue is part of the Algonzo Witches. The epilogue is part of the book that's set a couple thousand years later, when their society, it will be more of an urban fantasy instead of a dark fantasy or a high fantasy.
While you were talking about that, my mind started to go back into when I read Anne Rice and how everything was sort of stitched loosely together, from the Vampire Lestat to the Mayfair Witches, that kind of thing. But I guess that's probably where the similarity ends, huh?
Maybe they're all, everything that's in my head, it's all tied together. I am big about having congruency,
Mm-hmm.
where there is no loose ends, plot holes. I want to make sure that everything matches up. So yeah, they're all tied together. The reason why you see a gold book for the cover of the Blood Witch is their family is very good at keeping arcane records for hundreds of years. They know the family history. And so I have to know the history to make sure that it's congruent with everything else. It has to match, because I don't want someone to read it and say, hey, how come you screwed up here? Well, I don't want that. Like our modern releases of whether it be Star Wars or Star Trek or Doctor Who, what have you, where they don't match what went before them, that really is irksome to a lot of people.
Including me.
Yep. So I don't want any flaws like that in it at all.
Doctor Who was my favorite show when I was young, and you can probably tell from what I've got going on here. I'm still kind of into Doctor Who.
Just a little bit. There you go.
Got your John Pertwee.
Yep.
Season 4, John Pertwee.
Mm-hmm. Are you excited about the return of David Tennant? Possibly.
If it's for real, yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if it's going to be a 3, appearance thing for the 60th anniversary or
Right.
what, but it occurs to me that people probably can't see what I'm holding up because my light is blowing it out.
Well, we can see it.
Yeah.
We can read the names. Pictures aren't exactly perfect, but we got an idea of everything you got there.
And there's a really big one, but I can't put my eyes on it right now. Can you tell us about what this is?
That was a surprise. Some of you may know, what's his name? Come on. Why am I drawing a blank now? Chicken.
Rabbit chicken?
No. Let me look it up real quick. I can't believe I'm not remembering his name. It's someone in the community. He's done artwork for everybody else. And then one day, it just popped up. I said, here, take a look at this. Oh, Mother Chicken. And said, hey, check this out. I can draw this. And I said, yeah, go for it. So this was kind of fan art for Evolution. It's not exactly, I love the picture. It's not exactly what I have in my head. There's a model that's made of this ship. And it is a black ship with some red accents to it. But that was fan art. I thought it was awesome. I actually, big fan of it.
It seems like there are a lot of people that are interested in creating fan art for your books.
Yeah, actually, I'm quite surprised. I shared a couple with you, but I have more, several more. One from the Algonzo Witches, one from what I'm working on now, the Reach. I guess there's another one in the works for the Reach. My friend in England throws out music all the time, unsolicited. Every once in a while I'll ask him for something and he'll make it, but he makes a ton of stuff for me and I'm just surprised. It's very flattering, very flattering.
Yeah, absolutely. So what can you tell us about Evolution?
That's the first one, and coming from the doctor aspect and the sci-fi aspect, we learn about our genetic code. We learn about the brain capacity, how much we use, how much we don't use. And back in my mind years ago, I kept wondering, well, we got these telomeres, we got these codons. We kind of think they know a little bit of what they do, and a lot of it we don't know what they do. And if I can combine that somehow with science fiction, where somehow they get turned on and it changes humanity, changes parts of humanity. So that's where evolution comes from. There is something missing because think of us as being isolated from the rest of we're on a world that is far removed from the rest of where humanity really is.
Mm-hmm.
And they discover there is this missing element that makes humans use all of that potential. And one of our main characters, there's a few of them that have it, but we follow kind of one character in this book. They're in they overlap in every book. You kind of like following your heroes. Um, but he gets exposed to this chemical, and it shows what it does, how his mind accelerates. He becomes stronger. Um, but it's not an OP type thing. It just what, hey, Dave Bob. Um, so you follow this guy. He is basically someone who has been put in a set of circumstances by two different influences. One's kind of bad, one's kind of evil, or one's kind of good, not necessarily fully good, but they want to use him as a war machine. He's genetically made to do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
He has things placed into his head that will help him do what these people want him to do, but in the process, someone else threw stuff in there, which exposes him to what the greater universe is all about. And he's left to make decisions of what he's going to do with that information. Well, it's good to see that people read it, but it's more than just what he does with the information. It's what I like, writing stories where you actually have a real hero, not a superhero, and not a Mary Sue. I like to see people grow, placed with choices, and see what they do with those choices. Good people are going to act in good ways. Bad people are going to act in bad ways. He's a good person, contrary to what the bad influences want, and he makes good decisions. Eventually, it leads from his and a few other people's individual lives into a intergalactic story over the progression of the 3 or 5, depending on which ones you read. But there's 3 main books, but there's 5 altogether. And he kind of fades into the background, where the story is more important than the individual. So that's the one that the publishing company, that's the image that my artist made. And that was the book that was out for a while. The people that read it loved it. Joe Malazzi, you know him, right?
Who?
Joe Malazzi, Stargate.
Malazzi? Sure, yeah.
Stargate Atlantis. He says it's really great writing, and if it comes out again, he wants to do the foreword for it. So I said,
wow.
Okay. Yeah.
It doesn't get much better than that.
No, it doesn't. When you got the person who's written more sci-fi for television or done more television sci-fi than anyone on the planet, and says that about your
with the exception of maybe Brad Wright.
I don't know if Brad Wright can hold it up against Joe, but he's up there either way.
Brad Wright is certainly the person that got Joe Malazzi writing for television on Stargate.
Right. But either way, having that type of person with that much experience say that about my writing, then I was just floored. And then at that point, I accepted, you know what? If he says I'm good, I'm good.
There's a quote here. Adega Outlaw takes you on a brilliant ride of your life journey that page for page doesn't stop. It's criminal that this isn't on bookshelves in every library and bookstore. Loki's Mornings of Mischief.
Did Loki write that?
That's what it said.
Huh. Where'd you find that out?
The pinned comment on your website.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
My memory doesn't work as well as it should. I'm not exactly.
No, mine doesn't either.
All right. Maybe I put it there. Oh, well.
And there's another one. It's very engaging. The whole time reading, I'm thinking screenplay, and that's from Tink.
Yep.
I had Tink on a few times. Let's go ahead and ask you some questions about Revolution, which is the
book number 2.
the second book.
Yep, it does not have a book cover. That is just something I slapped together so if people wanted access to it on Springs, they can get it. That is kind of a concept art. My artist looked at it, and so I think right now most of her focus is on doing those maps for the Blood Witch, but this is kind of a concept of what it would be. In book 2, they are introduced to a droid, a very, very ancient droid, and that's supposed to represent that. I was kind of debating between that or one of the main characters, Stephen Price, who's I modeled him after my uncle, who's about 6'9", Native American, huge dark-skinned guy. Stephen Price in the book is a black guy. So I was debating whether I wanted his eye or the droid eye. This one came out easy, but the concept that's just concept. So she can go either way with it, whatever she wants to make. But Revolution takes off right where Evolution left off. Evolution left off where the main character Edric and 3 other people that were with him, along with some secondary characters that were kind of, think of them as corporate detectives. We're following along. At the end of that story, information gets out to humanity that, you know what, the universe is bigger than we thought, and we're also in trouble. Because there are some ancient things that are becoming aware that humanity is still around. Some bent on the extinction of the human race.
It reminds me a little bit of the shadows in Babylon 5.
Now, actually, the information is out there. So there's the ancient human race, which is wiped out, had done a lot of things over the millions of years that they existed. One of them was they liked to take inferior species and make them into sentient species, kind of like making company for the party. And they had limited successes with several species. One of them was think of them like a farm animal. They're called Ni. Their language is all based on single word phrases, where you combine single words simply. You don't have a or the or and. It all made sense because it's a complicated language. It gets into the books. But these Ni, like farm animals, were created into sentience, so they became Bay, which is created Ni Bay. And unfortunately for them, there were some of them that were brilliant, some of them that were dumb as a post, but they were all evil. And they were herd mentality. So they had the leaders of the herd, which were evil. And over time, they eventually grew and became in opposition to the humans at the time. This droid eye here is a representation of part of the efforts of that ancient human race to kind of quell their opposition. I don't want to get too much into the story, but that's what the eye.
We want people to buy the book.
Yeah.
And speaking of, maybe you can tell us about Resolution.
Resolution. That's another concept image. When a person reaches the pinnacle of evolution, you can actually feel their emotions. Their skin will glow. That was what this was supposed to represent. It comes to a head where in Revolution, basically the main government, the Stellar Union, was divided because of fear. People knew there was an outside source. They had spread out so far so quickly without consolidating power. There's free real estate. It was like going to the Wild West, You can go to Colorado, grab property up, but you're going to be far away from the nearest train station. Well, you find out there's a massive horde of, and I'm half Native, so don't worry about it. There's a massive horde of Native Americans that are going to come and take everything. You're going to be scared. And the government doesn't have the resources to protect you, so you do anything you can to protect yourself. That's where the revolution came in. Resolution is the aftermath of that, plus confronting these ancient leftover dilemmas. So we start off with one guy kind of learning the story, going into, okay, humanity now has to really find its place in the intergalactic, not just our galaxy, but the intergalactic universe. Otherwise, they're gone.
Yeah. You know, it's amazing. I'm also a science fiction writer.
I knew
and the story that you just summarized sounds a great deal like one that I have written the treatment for.
Oh, cool.
I wanted to also kind of skip over here to your website, and not only do we have your books, Evolution, Revolution, Resolution, Echoes of Nor, The Children of the Directive, but we also have some merch available here, some apparel.
The directive is something you kind of look, when you learn about, it's the main bad in the first book in Evolution. Children of the Directive is a story about one of the people from the Directive, and that character is in every single one of the books. You want a powerful, well-balanced, realistic, as much as you can in sci-fi, woman heroine. This is her story. The Directive, and this is no secret, they are bent on having humans regain their hold in the universe. They're from Earth. They're a breakaway civilization. That symbol and the words up there is their motto, their credo. They believe in perfecting everyone, being excellent at everything they do, and domination of the universe by any means necessary. You can kind of think of them not quite Sith-like, but they're definitely very diabolical. They're all evolved.
So interesting because it mirrors the story that I was telling you about that I'd written so closely.
Huh. I've never read it. There's a lot of science fiction I deliberately avoided because I didn't want to have influences from them. But no, they're all evolved, and they're just one of the big bads. They're not the big bad, but they're one of the big bads. Humanity has to deal with them. They have to deal with their own personal struggles. But one of the main... give me just a sec. I'm going to turn my mic off.
Hey, it's a live show, shit happens. And Anti-Derivative Jill says, this is like a bonus Masters of the Genre.
That was an important call that I was able to postpone, so sorry.
No worries.
Bonus Masters of the Genre. Thank you, Jill.
Yeah. A lot of compliments on your work for sure. We noticed on your website the Echoes of Nor and I was curious what you could tell us about that.
That one is set about 50 years after the end, after revolution or a resolution. Uh, the aftermath of the events of that one left, it's probably no surprise that humanity they managed to survive. Uh, by how much, I won't express. What's left of them, what ashes they have to clean up, I won't express. But it's a story about them trying to discover as much of the ancient information as possible so that they don't get surprised again. But there's a bigger picture to it than what they know. There are some outside influences, just like every single one of the books. There's outside influences that are playing on humanity, and they discover who's doing what as they go along. And this one it's in the process of going out and finding as much as they can so they don't get surprised again. They get surprised, and they find out there was a great mistake made millions and millions of years ago. And they're left having to deal with that.
One of your most recent videos, you're reading a chapter, The Reach, out
Yes.
loud on YouTube. When
Yes.
did you start reading audiobooks, and did you start with your own?
I started with my own. I started with Evolution. That was several years ago. And then when it was going to be published, I pulled it down. Then I did Revolution, Resolution. I've done all of them. Echoes of Nor, I just recently pulled down. The other ones I pulled down because the publishing company that I was going to that were going to do the Blood Witch wanted everything. All of it was going to be put out. So I figured I'm not going to leave it out there and shortchange my publishing company because I wanted them to survive. They wanted to make money. I figured, hey, you know what? If I get a few bucks off of it, no problem there as well. So I pulled them down just to keep them in reserve and let them get cleaned up and then publish them as we went along. But the Blood Witch was supposed to be the big one, even though I'm torn between which universe I like most.
Yeah.
But the Reach, the one that I'm reading now, is something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
And most of you can relate with this. Anyone who's read in sci-fi, read in fantasy, any of these type of things, even when you get into detective stories, or you listen to music, your mind gets carried away into places that you normally have never visited. You see things that only your imagination can take you to. And I wrote a short story about listening to music and how your mind goes off into your imagination, into worlds and places that you wouldn't normally ever visit. And in the story, this guy actually touches somebody, not from another galaxy, but from an entirely different universe where things work differently. And their spirits kind of resonate together. So I just put that out as a short story, and the response was really, really good. Like I said, I even got fan art with it. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to write the whole story. And that's where this is. And I have been surprised at how much people really like this story. It's unlike, and like I said, I don't play in other people's sandbox, so this is completely unique. We have two people in two different universes who periodically can get glimpses into another universe and how it affects them with their own struggles. Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, I lost my first writing career in the record store that I worked at, and I was just about to put in that I lost my second writing career when the computer science department copied my hard drive, put a new one in, and then when the guy went back to put the old hard drive and copy it, he had forgotten to copy it.
Oh.
So,
Oh.
I'm now on my third writing career.
I'm sure you're still upset about that.
Yeah. Especially the one that I had all of my writing career in my backpack at the record store that I worked at, because there were some really great ideas in there, only one of which I still remember, and I think has been done since. So, yeah, my dad was a computer science professor at the University of Kansas for 50 years. And, you know, back in the day, I was working on a Fat Mac, and it had a hard drive that was an entire 10 megabytes. It was huge.
Right. Yep, I know what you're talking about.
And I ended up filling it up with words. And so I took it to my dad, and he said, yeah, I've got a tech. He'll be able to take care of that. And, yeah, the rest is history.
You know what? I lost one chapter one time. I'm still upset about it because, you know, there's a certain flow of words and imagination. You know this because you've done it. And it comes out in certain ways when you're really inspired to write things, and then you lose that. And it's like someone cut your finger off, you know? But I can't imagine losing that much work. I feel for you. I really do. Because after losing that one chapter, I duplicate things all over the place. I have 2 external hard drives. I have a Google Drive. I have a Proton Drive. You know, it's really backed up because of one chapter. I can't imagine what you went through. I'm sorry. I really feel for you.
You know, it happens. You know, I write every day, and at this point, you know, it's long gone. And that's fine. The third writing career is better than the first 2, of course. But I you know, probably would have been able to, you know, get published and represented a lot earlier, back when it was easy to do that comparatively to now.
Yeah. But I have found, which is actually a bonus for me, I write in Word, I move it to Google, and then use Google Documents. And so I have the editor on Word, I have the editor on Google Documents, and they both catch different things. So it's pretty clean by the time you're done. But the bonus is it's on Google Drive.
Right. I never really been much of a PC guy. I started out on the Mac. Then I went to the Amiga. And I just didn't want to get involved with the whole Microsoft thing.
Right.
And there was one command that I really liked, that a friend of mine helped me set up on a DOS machine. I think it might have been autoexec.bat. And every time you saved a story or a document, all of the backups would go 1 over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that was kind of cool, but I don't do DOS anymore. I think there's still a shell in like Windows 10, but I'll be damned if I can find it.
That's why I like having my son who knows all that stuff. If I needed it, he would do it.
Yep. So, am I breaking a secret by talking about Mad Raptor Productions, an indie publisher seeking thrilling tales and savage stories to unleash upon the libraries of the world?
No, you're not breaking any secret. That's the group that folded. Great group. They really were. But like I said, it was a victim of circumstance. Things that went out of their control. Except, like I said, and some of you who've heard me talk about it, I had to go outside of the company for a publisher. I mean, not a publisher, for editors, because the editors they had were more of the recent graduation persuasion, as you could imagine, where they wanted to change things to meet the woke agenda as much as possible. And I would not bend for that.
We do not kneel.
No, I wouldn't at all, and I'm glad we don't, because it's temporary, and we can see it's all dying out now. The crap's hit the fan. People are starting to wake up, going, this is really ridiculous. This is stupid what we're doing. There's a group, and it's getting smaller and smaller, the millennials who believe all that, but it's going away. And if anyone, and I feel sorry for the people who filled into that agenda, their stuff isn't going to last. It doesn't have the legs to withstand another 20 years, let alone 50 or 100 years.
Yeah, and let's face it, corporations are around to make money for their shareholders and stakeholders, and not to follow the most recent social agenda or identity politics. So I think the two of us are on the same page as far as that woke nonsense goes.
There are things where, and I see an awful lot of, and I'm sure you have too, where there's a lot of the writers now like to go to the young adult route. And they do it with inclusivity, which there's no problem with that if it's well written. But if it's written with an agenda, then I have a problem with it, and that's not what's going to last.
Yeah.
If you have gay people, if you have, like in the Blood Witch, I have she's not necessarily trans, but there is a woman in it that dresses up as a man, oftentimes to fulfill agendas. But it's written as someone's true personality, not as someone who's getting up and saying, accept me for who I am. Doesn't do that at all. This is what has to happen. And you're going to get a knife in your ribs because you think I'm one thing and not the other. It's just, it's part of the story.
Yeah.
Not part of the agenda.
I wanted to move on to our second topic of the evening.
All right.
And first of all, I just want to commend you for the bravery it takes to dive into our next topic. Talking about death is difficult enough. Discussing one's own impending death takes a lot of courage.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a quote from Star Trek: "How we face death is at least as important as how we face life." When did you get your diagnosis, and what is it?
That's the fun part. I don't want to get too much into why I am where I am.
Okay.
I will talk about what I have, that type of stuff. But there's some unusual things. I've told my friend Loki, and if I pass away, he's free to talk about this stuff, because there's certain things that seem very unreal and unrealistic, but they're true. What I have is multiple myeloma, and it is a bone disorder. It affects the autoimmune system. It causes the bones to have tumors, go haywire, and then the body remodels, and it goes back and forth. You'll have inflammation and then reduction in these different bones, and it can be anywhere in the body. I've had them all over my skull, my spine. I'm a couple inches shorter than I used to be. It used to be, when you got diagnosed with it, you had 2 years. Mm-hmm. Things have changed. We're modern, going to the medicine side of things. They've been able to extend people's lives to 8 to 12 years. I've stuck with the chiropractic aspect of it, contrary to what my oncologist would prefer. I'll get into that. But my diagnosis was 12 years ago. And I'm still doing pretty well. And probably, every day is a blessing at this point. But I'm still hanging pretty tough. They would say, well, you need to have, when you have a lesion, we will do bone marrow transplants. Usually it's your own bone marrow from one point to another. We can do pinpoint radiation on different things when they get bad. One oncologist I like the best, he said it's a matter of quality of life, not quantity of life. And I said, well, that's what I'm totally expecting.
Mm-hmm.
However, I have done things, like I said, the chiropractic way. They keep saying, this is the way your diet's supposed to be. This is how you're supposed to do things. One of the things are they say, keep your vitamin D levels really high, just like everybody else. My thing, the chiropractic thing is, why would you feed a disease?
Right.
The only time I put my vitamin D level up high was when I had COVID to get over it. And I deliberately got it to prove to people, you know what, you can beat this if you do it the right way. It just, we're not shown the right
Let
way.
me make sure that I heard you right. That you deliberately got COVID.
Yeah, I wanted to get it over and done with.
Uh
I
huh.
wanted to get out there,
And
get my immunity, my natural immunity, and then just move on and go on to other things. And if
I
people
imagine
ask,
this was pretty early on in the whole COVID thing.
it was about 9 months ago.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't mind, what was that like for you with uh, uh, being someone with um, a compromised autoimmune system?
Well, like I said, I knew enough to take the vitamin D3, take a lot of zinc, um, but I
Me too.
also
Both of
knew
those.
that, huh?
Me too. Both of those.
Right, good. But I also knew enough that where people are running into problems and you hear about these respirators and everything, they're doing that wrong. You need to get up. As hard as life is, you have to get on your feet, clean your room, do the dishes, take the dog out for a walk. Even if you feel like you're going to pass out, you get up and do it anyway because it exercises your lungs. That's what I forced myself to do.
Mm-hmm.
It was 2 weeks of battling this thing. And everything in my body said, lay down, take it easy. Everything in my head said, get up and make your body do what it's supposed to do. And that's what I did. I got up, forced it to work, made food, because my wife was sick at the same time, made food for both of us. You know, she went out and worked in the yard and just barely able to do it, but we worked through it and did okay. You know, now we have a natural immunity. You could bring on Omicron, Delta, what you call it's our immunity is there. You don't have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
That all being said, instead of doing the 8 to 12 years like the medical says, I'm at 12 years and they're still amazed. It's because I'm
They've
doing
never seen anything like it before, huh?
kind of, yeah. Yeah, I'm on the other end of the bell curve,
Mm-hmm.
or you wouldn't
You're
expect for someone who has an
you're an
autoimmune disorder.
outlier.
Yeah, yeah. But I've always been an extremely fast healer for reasons I don't want to get into.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely fast, where people used to call me Wolverine. So that's an added benefit as well. But it's being a chiropractor and having had dealt with, I've had a few patients that have passed away, young kids with cancer, older people with Hodgkin's or Lou Gehrig's or various different things. You learn to face, plus religious, you learn to face death for what it is. It's part of life. And the thing about life is it's meant to be enjoyed regardless of where you're at. Even if you have hardships, even if you see the end of the tunnel, just because you're coming to the end of the tunnel doesn't mean that you stop enjoying life. We've joked about things. You know, my family makes jokes about me croaking all the time. I don't care. It's because you know what? That's fine. I don't mind. They don't mind. It's just, granted, you'll miss somebody when they're gone. I've lost both my parents. I lost a brother when I was young. You miss them, but it's still just part of life. And you think about how our life is compared to what humanity's gone through in the past. The feudal wars, medieval wars, the plagues, Black Death, all these different things. The famines in Asia, or in Asia, in some of these war-torn places in Africa.
Africa, yeah.
People have gone through far worse. than just losing a mother, a father, a brother, a neighbor. It's uh, just enjoy the company you're with, enjoy the moment you're with. And like you said earlier, we don't kneel either, because
Yeah.
that also makes life better when you are bold enough and confident enough to be able to stand on your principles instead of bending the knee to somebody else's wishes. Your life will be more rewarding. So yeah, I'm living a charmed life, even though it's been 12 years. It's unheard of, and I'm still doing well. Um, so it's that phone call that came just a minute ago is my wife. She's out of town. I'm here with my dogs by myself, and it was a wellness check to make sure I'm doing okay.
I see. Well, I hope you feel free to text her, uh, something.
Oh, I'll call her back later. She knows. No one expected. I mean, you sprung this on me a day or two ago. I didn't know we were going to be on, and you took advantage of the opportunity because I turned you down a few times before. Um, but no, she didn't know, so it's fine. It's all good.
Yeah, it has been a long time since you've been on the channel. So, uh, d-
Well, I
so
show up, but a lot of time I don't chat or do anything in when I'm watching someone stream. So I've been around.
yeah. Um, are you dying or terminal, or is there a difference?
Um, with this one, it does. Sometimes it kills you, or it's the secondary thing that usually gets people, because there's a couple things I could, even in earlier stages, there can be parts where the blood in the marrow, because of the tumors, different things, will throw a clot and it can drop in a heartbeat. You just never know. It's tick tick tick. Usually,
Mm-hmm.
what happens is the kidneys go or the heart goes. And I know my kidneys are struggling a little bit. I don't talk about it because people, you and I both know a lot of people that are suffering, that have all kinds of different issues.
Mm-hmm.
And why do I want to add to anybody else's issue about how they feel or take away from somebody else's attempt at finding camaraderie and hope from other people's good spirits? I want to be one of the ones that provides a good spirit. So instead of talking about, yeah, my kidneys are not real happy, it's like, how can I help you today? You
Mm-hmm.
know, how can I make your day better? That's what makes me excited. That's
I've always believed that life is about service,
yes,
and
yes, yes.
I think that writing and providing entertainment for people that they find uniquely rewarding is uniquely rewarding.
Yes, 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 yes. I completely agree. Like I said, live in the moment. You want to help other people, or you want to help yourself. Do, and I've talked with this on other people's channels before too. The biggest thing to help someone with depression or feeling bad isn't taking a pill, or isn't, and believe it or not, it's not going to support groups. The best thing that will help you is to get up and walk and to serve somebody else without looking for payment, without looking for a pat on the back. You just get up and help somebody else and
Mm-hmm.
do that walking. That will eliminate depression. Always does.
What can you tell us about um, the journey that you've been through since your diagnosis, as far as the tests and
Oh,
treatments and things like that?
well, the test stuff I don't want to get into because it will reveal things that I don't want really to be revealed until I don't have to face the consequences. Let's put it that way. Um, but let's say some doctors are kind of they're surprised or don't believe. Here's an example. When I was a kid, I broke my finger. I was 14 years old. I had was out surfing. My leash broke, and I figured, I can hang onto my board with my hand, which I couldn't. I was stupid. Wave took it and broke my finger, and so I go onto the beach, and my middle finger's kind of twisted a little bit. It looks straight, it almost looks normal, but it's swollen. It looked like I jammed a knuckle. And my buddies are going, well, if you broke it, you'd be screaming in pain. And I really wasn't too much pain at all. But I couldn't move my finger. And so it was about a week and a half later or so, maybe a couple weeks, my mom saw it and said, why aren't you moving your finger? I said, it's no big deal. And my mom was a hypochondriac. So all right, we're going to the doctor. And they found out it was broken. 3 weeks after the fracture, they went in to do surgery. And it was completely healed. This is the Wolverine thing I was telling you about.
Yeah.
So they took images of it, sent it off to be studied, went to different institutions to figure out what the heck is wrong with this kid. He's a freak. So some of the other stuff that happens with this cancer, like I said, I don't want to get into it. But I've gone through PET scans, lots of blood tests. I get skeletal surveys on a regular basis so we can see if there's something broken here, broken there. Like I've already had a broken hip, my spine's broken a few times. It's different things that go along with the disease, which is neither here nor there to me. I just get up and keep walking. And one day it took a long time to get a diagnosis because my body just likes to heal or fool things. And eventually when they got it, it was pretty solid. You get the one thing I hate more than anything, because I don't mind getting needles, it was the biopsy. Have you ever had bone biopsy?
No.
Or marrow biopsy? Yeah, they basically lay on your side. They get this little, it's about the size of a straw, and they jam it into your hip bone and suck out some of the marrow while you're awake.
I've had epidurals, but I've never had that.
Yeah, no, this wasn't fun. You can feel them jostling you around while they're jamming this thing, and you can hear your bone crunch. Yeah, I had that a couple times. It's not fun. I haven't had that in a while, fortunately. But they kind of learned to be a little bit hands off with me because I'm doing better than what's expected.
Another thing that we have in common, I think, is the Wolverine thing that you were talking about. I've used natural abilities that we all have that most people aren't aware of to enhance my life, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's not terribly different from your modality.
Well, there's also another thing too, that everyone has access to this, but most people don't use it. It's their brain. I learned through martial arts, several different things. You'll hear the stories of these positive attitudes, these people being healed because of positive thoughts, of meditation, those type of things. If you focus your mind, you make your body believe with your mind, because thought can be made into action. It's one of the things. I sent you a link to top fives I write for them. They came to me, they saw my stuff and said, hey, please write for us. And I'm working on one now. It's about the human body. But some of the things that might be in the article that I'm writing, because one of the links I sent you was actually the first one that I wrote for them. It's about oceanographic stuff. But some of you know, some of you don't know, that the mind can actually change the way water crystals will form. You can make them, by positive thought, form into beautiful different patterns depending on the positive thoughts you're using, whether it be hope or love or friendship. They'll come out in different patterns. If you have negative thoughts, they'll become muddy, murky, diseased. And that's why it's important to have those strong, positive thoughts, to keep yourself surrounded by strong, positive thoughts. Dwelling on the negative, the hate, the anger, using of other people for selfish reasons tends to destroy yourself and those around you. Where if you try to uplift and help as best you can, and where you can't, you just kind of put it on the back burner unless things change. But either way, all of that helps for a more healthy lifestyle. You can even
Yeah.
make your food preserve for longer just by positive thoughts. People don't realize it, but it's actually documented. It's true.
Uh, when did you tell your family and your friends about your diagnosis?
That was years ago. My wife was there when we found out. First, we thought it was MS
Mm-hmm.
because mine, I'm just weird. But it was about 12 years ago. I didn't have a problem letting people know in my family. Um, my friends was a little bit later, but now it's like nothing because we expected maybe 5 years back then, and here I'm on 12 years, and who knows? I may have another 12 years to go.
Yeah.
But you learn to
God willing.
appreciate. Yeah, you just learn to appreciate the moment. Do what you can in the moment.
I uh,
Excuse me, I
I
got to get a drink of water.
sure. Uh, I don't like uh, having other people's videos on my channel because it inevitably ends up being
Oh, you're
uh,
talking about the top fives?
yeah. But
Nah, you don't have to show it. It's just if you
but
wanted to.
what I did do was take some screen caps of it, like the one that we have here, uh, and I think all of the ones that I have to do with this. Um, if you wanted to discuss it.
I don't know this.
Let's try
That's
this
not one
one.
of mine. I don't know anything else.
This is part of the video.
Then no, that's not mine. Mine is all oceanographic. It deals with discoveries of some old fish, but new things they discovered about them. Yeah, that's not mine.
Hmm. Whoops.
Maybe I gave you the wrong link.
It's possible.
Let me see.
Yeah,
Uh,
this all has to do with somebody in Fresno.
yeah, no, I don't know anything about that. Now, the link I sent you was 5 most mysterious recent discoveries of sea creatures.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a little different. um,
I don't know why it jumped on you, but no, I didn't. They want to use me for more of the scientific stuff. They have some really good paranormal people, um, mystery people. There's, I think they have 4 channels now. One deals with uh, aliens. One deals with some bizarre things of the Middle Ages. They have murder mystery things, which sounds like the Fresno one. But the top 5 ones deals with pretty much the whole gambit. And so they approached me. They said, "Hey, you know what? We need you to write for us." And I said, "All right." So I started writing for them.
well, that's cool.
Yeah, I was very flattered. They got 3.5, 3.4 million subscribers. You can't argue with that.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. Um, Dave Bob says everybody has scars, some outward, some not visible. However, they are not to be glossed over. They are real.
Right?
Yeah, and as you said before, we all have people that we know, people that are either in our family or our friends, that we've had to deal with this sort of thing.
Right.
So I guess it's just a matter of when we get older, obviously it's going to happen more often.
Yeah, and I can't I feel for you. Like I said, I've lost both my parents. You still miss them. When Mother's Day or Father's Day comes around, there's there's something missing.
I just lost
And
my father last year.
yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Mine was about 3 years ago, 4 years ago now. But it is, I think there is a beauty, if you look for it in it, where even the bad parents, somewhere along the line, they've taught you something, whether by a bad example or a good example, especially the rewarding good examples. And you celebrate that, and every day you can use, or when you think of it, you can use what they taught you to try to improve your own life. It keeps them with you in a way.
How did you get to the point where you were doing your own what's the word I'm looking for? Audiobook.
I was weird, and I thought I was unique in it until just recently. I like to hear myself read it. And I figured, well, if I'm going to put it on YouTube, I might as well add some pictures to it just to kind of relate. It helped my thought processes. When I heard myself read it, it helped me edit it. Well, this doesn't flow right. This should be done better. We'll change this. And it worked out. So it was a habit to do that. And then people started to like what I did. And so I just kept it up. Mostly, I like my brother. I said, "Hey, here's this. Check this out," or some friends. But it's I don't have a large channel. I'm not really looking for people to subscribe to it. I mean, if they do, great. Thank you for coming along. Leave a nice comment. If they don't, it's okay. Everyone has their own things. But it was an editing thing. And then recently, when I was on Twitter, I'll follow some of these other authors. Most authors aren't as good as they think they are, and some are really good. And this one had asked the question, does anyone like to hear out loud or read out loud the stuff that they've written for editing? And I'm just going, I am not the only one. How very cool. So I had to leave a comment. Oh. We have a little dog that loves to bark with the neighbors.
Aforementioned dogs.
Pardon?
I said aforementioned dogs.
Yeah.
I'm also a screenwriter, and reading what I've written has become sort of second nature. So I understand where you're coming from. I don't know that I would be able to read all of my own work, especially when there are people that are professionals at it. But there is a local organization here at the university that has a really special function. They give special radios to the blind and people that have vision impairment problems of various kinds. And then they have a coterie of volunteers, and they read the newspaper, periodicals,
Right.
novels, generally topical things, and then the people can turn on the radio. They used to send cassettes in the mail, and I think now they just do it via radio. It's called audio reader is what it's called. And I had been thinking about reading my own audiobooks, and I decided the best way to see if I had that ability was to go up to Audio Reader and take their test.
Huh.
And their test had to do with reading, a page with words in it that are of a higher vocabulary level than most people. Ones that have strange pronunciations or maybe are brought into English from a different language.
Yeah.
And I became very nervous, when I was about to do this. And the lady that was in charge just kind of said, just relax and be yourself. So I did. And I got through the page in under, I think it was a minute. It was pretty close. So I passed. I passed that test, and they told me, right now we don't have any places open on our roster. As a matter of fact, our backup roster is full, but we can put you on the third one. So, eventually you can get there. And I said, okay, sure. But I guess the point is, that's what told me that I had the ability to do that if that's something that I wanted to do. And I think it takes, as I was saying, reading your own stuff out loud before, let's say, a bookstore appearance, or, if you're writing dialogue, you're going to have to say, or someone else is going to have to say. Reading anything out loud is a great way of determining whether the patterns of vocal intonation work or they don't.
Right. And I didn't start off any good. I still don't claim to. Some people say I do really well, but they didn't hear my early stuff. But it was a kind of one of those bank shots, a side bonus. I got to hear my editing, but then I also improved my intonation. Mm-hmm. But I also use Audacity. It's a free program to where I'll play it through, and I could cut off. You cut off bits and pieces. You can eliminate background noises, make it sound really good. So it's I'm not reading it straight out, but it comes out pretty good. So after a couple hundred videos, I kind of got good at it.
Yeah.
And so it's been fun.
And here I have your Odyssey front page, and there's certainly a lot there.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to change that around. I just started putting stuff, and then I kind of forgot about it. You can see I only got one follower because I haven't really been doing anything with it. That has the first 10, 11 chapters of Children of the Directive. So I need to get on there and remove those. But while it's there, if anyone wanted to see what the book is about, at least the beginning of it, because this one it's different. And I just got feedback from someone who was reading it, said that it was a masterful work, and it made him cry at one point. But it's not one story. It's one individual, but it's a very long life of going through different events and how it affects them as part of the directive. Jill, you're awesome.
And she's quick.
Yeah. One of the wrenches o' power.
Yeah. I can't say enough good things about my wrenches, and I'm I'm very lucky that I have the ones that I have. And you mentioned that you were going to be taking some things down.
I just need to learn how to use these places. Like I said, I reserved, because you can see it's that's just Adega there, but I use it as a backup and reserve the name. But since I do believe that YouTube is going to eventually wane, it will be good to use it for the potential that's there. So
Yeah, I'm a member of Odyssey just because it backs up all my videos. Since the occasion that I mentioned, in which I lost an entire career's worth of writing, when I had to take that 10 megabyte drive to my dad and have him take it to one of the computer science flunkies, and then it came back just reformatted basically. I've learned to back things up, like you said, pretty much everywhere. So once I'm done with a stream, for instance, like this one, I generally download it to a really large drive, and then I re-upload it to YouTube, and then re-download it because it ends up being much smaller, and then I'll put that on a backup, like a Blu-ray. I'll have that filled up with, streams or videos that I've done, and I just keep doing that because you can't be too careful, like you said.
Right. You never know when YouTube's going to say, "Hey, you know what? For some reason, this guy was talking about healthcare that we don't like, so we're going to pull this video." But you still have it. You didn't lose it at the whim of YouTube.
Yeah.
It's very wise.
And I think the same is true of StreamYard, because I remember at some point I was getting close to the amount of storage that StreamYard allows, and I had to buy the larger, version. So I'm not sure how it works, but I guess that StreamYard does backup streams.
Well, you'd know better than I do, because I've done a couple of, at least on my own channel, I just use the YouTube thing, which if they allow guests, I have no idea how to do it. Never use StreamYards. I've been guests, but it's not my thing to really host any live streams. Leave that to professionals like you.
Yeah. Antiderivative Jill says, yep, you can use third-party storage, but never fully rely on it. Have your own copy.
Yep. Great.
And as someone that's moving to a nice, cozy little house from a townhouse that was split into 3 sort of apartments, where there's a foundation leak where I put my computers and a lot of those backup disks. I've learned to put milk crates and things down, and then put the stuff that absolutely can't be subject to water or anything like that on top of those, so that they'll come in and replace the carpet once a year, and we'll have carpet fans and that kind of thing, but they never want to deal with the problem, which I think is there's a root of a tree down there somewhere that keeps growing through the pipe. But it's important to put your backups in, a safe or something really secure.
Right.
And
No, I agree.
certainly after the experiences that I've had, I make sure to back up stuff on every computer I have. I have a couple of G5s from 2000 or 2005. Yeah, 2005. They're great machines. But you just can't have too many. There's no such thing as too many backups, right?
Right. Yeah. And like I said, that was, I think, one of the issues that happened with that publishing company. We brought up Mad Raptor, and they moved, and there were some hard drives that were missing for quite a while, which set them back. We're talking months. And a business without that information readily accessible, it hurts. So
Yeah.
It wasn't surprising. It was sad, unfortunate. There was a lot of people dependent on it because the people that were running it were true professionals and they knew what they were doing. It wasn't the first time that they'd done it, where they'd set up something in the publishing and then help it run fluidly and then move on to another project. Because they had a track record, so I followed it.
Eastern Brookholder says my allergies would kill me if a leak made the carpet wet. I definitely understand where you're coming from. And hail, Eastern Brookholder.
Hey.
I'd like to open the floor up to questions from the audience at this point. We've got about 15 minutes left in the show.
Okay.
If you're feeling up to it.
Yeah, we're doing good.
And if anybody in the chat has questions for Adega, go ahead and get them in. And another thing I haven't discussed with you, but I was curious if you were interested in doing. A lot of the time when I have someone on that's an author, we do a giveaway of a signed book or something like that. In your case, it might be a PDF. I don't know. Is that something you'd be interested in doing?
Springs. Yeah. Sure. Why not?
Cool. Then can you tell us what the giveaway would be?
I could pick whichever one I want.
Just
whatever ones is on the Teesprings, or they could get the Blood Witch, but it won't have the maps. I don't have those included yet. There's also some other artwork that's supposed to be included with it, but it's not there yet either.
Okay.
Well,
that is generous of you indeed. So I will ask.
They're all copyrighted, so I'm not worried about it.
My mods to go ahead and get the link into the chat so that we can do a giveaway. And again, thanks very much, Adega, for doing that. And once the URL for the link gets into the chat for the spinner wheel, giving away the Blood Witch or any book of their choice is my understanding.
If they want sci-fi, or and if they have Evolution, they probably want to get the next book in line. Or if they want the high dark fantasy, they get the Blood Witch. And I think the Blood Witch is the longest. So if you want something that takes you a while to read, you'd want that.
It's got a really cool looking cover.
It all means something too. The gold means something. The sword, it's a ring and a crow, the little cross, all of it. It's all symbolic for stuff that's in the book.
And Jill says, for some reason, Google decided to crash my document, so she'll have to make another one.
Oh, sorry.
Andy Masterson, hail. He said, God, I wish I had time to read.
I heard that from truckers. When are you coming out with an audio version? Sorry. You can put it in Word and let it read for you, but...
He's so busy making custom figures at this point.
Nice.
I don't know if he has time to run his martial arts studio or not. I guess he must. That's his bread and butter.
I've met Andy before, haven't I? Yeah, we were on the show one. I remember Andy. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Andy's a great guy. And I saw that he was on Doomcock's Pop Culture Breakdown the other day.
Cool.
And Jill says that Google Forms is down, so we'll have to collect names the old-fashioned way. So what we'll do is everyone that's in the chat, just put a 1 into the chat, and then we'll be able to do that the old-fashioned way. Or Jill, were you talking about everybody picks a number between 1 and say 10 or something like that? And I realize now she's typing behind the scenes and has to
doing amazing work that I'm glad somebody else is doing and not me.
No kidding, right? Okay, I think she's putting them on the spinner wheel. So we've got Gap Stargate and Dave Bob and Tolfer, and I know we have a lot more people in the chat. So please just put a 1 next to your name, or just enter a 1 into the chat, and then we'll be able to do the wheel. And Cap Stargate says Jill rocks, and Dave Bob says my typing is suspect.
There's a lot of suspect things about you, Dave Bob, but that's all right.
While we're waiting for people to enter a 1 into the chat, was there anything that you thought of that you wanted to discuss or mention, plug, etc.?
Not really. I'm everyone knows, the people that know me know I'm, for the most part, I'm pretty accessible. You know, you get personal, like with health or something, I am not so much, just because people don't need to know. It's, you want to talk about good things in life. But I plugging Loki's show on Thursday nights. I think that's
tell us about that.
Again, that was about once upon a time we did history and then went into the macabre, and now he will take half the time doing spooky stories, and I take the time usually dealing with paranormal or the darker secrets of evil societies. And there's, throughout my life, things have, I don't know why I've been exposed to it. Like I said, when I was young, some weird things happened. And then when I was a doctor, and a lot of people know this, I had some influential people as patients. I talk about one who was a Secret Service agent, and there's doctor-patient confidentiality, and sometimes they just want to talk, and they'll tell you things that they want to get off their chest, stuff that they can't tell anyone else, and I can't use names.
Sure.
But there there's equals and opposites in everything. As good as you see some people are, there are organizations very well organized, very dark, very abusive, and as evil as you can think evil is.
Yeah.
Everything from slave cages to cannibalism.
Dave Bob says the under system.
Yeah. But on the Loki channel, I'll bring up different aspects of it, little bits and pieces, and exposing people to different things that you don't normally get exposed to, or explaining it more than, see, you'll see documentaries on television and they don't tell you the full story, or they deliberately mislead you. Like, there's this group now, some of you, if you're into the UFO realm, there's Tom DeLonge and his Reach for the Stars thing.
Oh my God! Yeah,
exactly. If you know who he is, you know that he is a grifter. And
what was his organization even called?
I think it was To the Stars. But
To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences. Yeah.
Yeah, he was using people from the CIA and other groups where they're deliberately misleading.
Of course.
It's a big misinformation thing, a grifting thing about the UFO things. And then you see like these videos where the military released these videos of them tracking the Tic Tac and this, that, and the other. If you know how infrared and those type of things work, that is just a regular jet plane. They can do the same thing with a bird. That's why they have it in those images. They don't show you full color or other types of imaging, because then you'll be able to see the wings. You'll be able to see the props from a helicopter.
I remember there was a video not too long ago that Brazil or one of the South American countries had been keeping classified because they didn't know what it was. And finally, they unclassified it. And as soon as they did, members of like the Roswell slides. Do you remember that?
I don't know.
It ended up being they had this huge meeting in Mexico City where they were going to show the Roswell slides, which were found in the attic of the cameraman who allegedly,
Oh, these are supposed to be actual Roswell images?
Well, that's what they said, yeah. But as soon as they released the images to the public, the guys that had been sort of put into the Roswell Slides group against their will and didn't want anything to do with it, said, "Oh, that's a mummy of a kid at a roadside attraction type place," and there was a very easy way to determine what had been done to these images via Photoshop, and they just reversed, what had been done, and you could very easily see the nameplate, that said something about the child, and
right.
It was a complete hoax,
Right.
Total fabrication.
Yeah, so that's always the fun thing, but I miss that one. But it's the ones where you see, like I said, the more recent, where the Navy has finally released these tracking videos, but most of the time they're F-18s, or there was a Huey helicopter that was releasing some fuel out the back, and they said, "Look, what is this UFO doing?" But you're showing the wrong image. Show it in full color.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The thing in Brazil or whatever it was, that they had unclassified, and the guys in this group, or who had been put in this group, identified it immediately as a plane that was 60 miles away that was dumping fuel, and it looked like a really bizarre thing, but once it was released to people that knew better, um, they I mean, like, within hours they knew what it was.
Yeah.
And welcome Antiderivative Jill.
There she is with her mic shut off.
Hello, Jill.
You're silenced.
She's muted.
She's using sign language.
Yes, sorry, I was muted because I needed to take a moment to put something on for my daughter to make her happy. So if you can wait just a couple minutes, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Kids are awesome.
Yeah. Ivan Ivanovich says the Department of Defense is actively trolling the UAP community.
Yep. Absolutely. It's fun to watch, too. But there's a lot of trolls. There's a guy, David Greer, I think is his name, Dr. Greer. Used to be emergency room doctor, and he does all this stuff.
Stephen
Greer. He, not necessarily a troll. He's very enthusiastic about what he does.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a salesperson. He's not giving you a ton of information as much as he is trying to sell you on his meditation techniques. Or what he shows where you go off and you can use these cameras and you come to our groups and you'll be able to see this. Anybody can do that in their backyard.
Well, I'm not sure how much he believes it, because he knows when the satellites are coming overhead, and
right.
He alerts everybody in his little CE5 contact vectoring them in group.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, there are people that are out and out hoaxers. There are people that are just too credulous and will believe anything.
Yep.
And then there are, I guess, people like you and me that are critical thinkers and know a little better. We've been around, and once
have to be open for new information. You can't block it all up because you see a few grifters. But it's always wise to, because I have been guilty of this too, accepting things too quickly. But when it comes to that type of stuff, one that I like to follow, probably half of you already know about it. Secure Team 10. That guy tries to do an honest job, and he's wrong sometimes. He may not admit it because he doesn't see it, but other times he's got some pretty cool stuff. It's like, yeah.
It's funny you mentioned Secure Team 10, because
really?
I ended up just watching his videos because they made me laugh. I remember once he interviewed Dave Pilates, the missing 411 guy.
Yes, that was cool.
And
I actually really enjoyed that.
You could tell that he had no idea what was going on. He'd never written any of his books or seen any of his movies. That was his first interview. He was horrible at it.
Mm-hmm.
The best thing that he could do would be just to let Dave talk. And that's
right.
kind of
right.
what happened.
He did score a good one when he did, what's his face? Bob Lazar. That one actually did pretty well.
Yeah, not too bad. Okay, I think Jill has everyone on the wheel that wants to be on the wheel. Is that right, Jill?
That is correct. We're ready to roll.
So go ahead and give that wheel a spin.
The thing about winning here, you have to get back with me and give me your honest opinion.
Tracy! Yay! Congratulations.
You'll have to give me your honest opinion when you're done with the work. And you have to tell me which one you want to.
Yes.
It's nice because I follow Tracy on Twitter, so I'll be able to send her a link real easy.
Well, congratulations.
Yes, congratulations, Tracy. I had Tracy and Maria from Tea and Telly on the other day, and we talked about horror hosts and old horror movies and stuff like that. It was a fun show. So I will make sure and pass along her information.
I've got it. It won't be.
Oh, you do? Okay,
yeah.
Good.
She just has to let me know what she wants.
Tracy, you'll have to figure out which of his books to choose from.
Horror or horror fantasy, dark fantasy, as I call it, high fantasy, because it has magic and other things in it.
I know that paranormal romance is a really big genre right now.
Maybe that's why people like The Reach. It's not really a romance because they're in two different universes, but kind of.
Very interesting. All right. Well,
thanks, Jill.
Yeah, it's been
welcome.
Absolutely my pleasure.
Oh yeah. No, this has been fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Been putting you off for so long. Sorry.
It's okay. We got it done. That's the important part. And that will pretty much wrap it up.
All right.
So thanks to everybody in the chat, and thanks again to Adega. And we will see you guys on the next one. It's Cardinal Sin.